Hello everyone and welcome to another Stargate video. Today I want to talk about a post I made on my various social medias somewhat recently. The post was about this image. This is an armor slash spacesuit that would have made an appearance in the video game Stargate Unleashed. Now, Unleashed was available to play for a time, a sadly short time, being available in March 2013 and only getting to episode 2 in November 2013 before the game was pulled. And funny enough, the armor would have made its appearance in episode 3, so we were one episode away from greatness. We were this close. Though calling this great is a bit of a stretch, because my feelings on this armor is that it's okay, a decent design for a science fiction setting, but Stargate isn't just another science fiction setting, and I feel this armor doesn't really fit with this setting. To me, it looks a bit too Mass Effect-like, a sentiment shared by many people when I posted this image, though many said they got more Halo vibes from it. Though after rewatching the trailers for Unleashed, which is the only place we can see this armor in action, I kind of get more Star Trek Kelvin timeline feels from it now. Getting back to the main point of this video, I started thinking more and more about this, and I wanted to ask the question if Stargate as a franchise should have armor. But let's go back a second. What makes Stargate as a franchise different from other science fiction settings? Unlike most other franchises, Stargate doesn't start off with Earth having access to various advanced technologies. Sure, they have the Stargate, but besides that, they just have standard military equipment, or at least standard in the year of 1997. So it makes sense that at the start of the series, that the team Stargate Command would send through the gate wouldn't have any advanced tech. Especially since it turns out their weapons were pretty effective.
Oh god, I see! I got him! I got him! With
P90.
Let's go! Nice. Common military equipment, let's go.
However, as time goes on and the more you think about it, the more you realize there is a slight problem. As the main enemies Earth has to deal with, in SG-1, the Goa'uld have energy-based weapons. And honestly, this clip from Heroes Part 1 explains this issue perfectly.
Kevlar will not stop the energy blast from a staff weapon, and the armor plating and other bulletproof protection gets superheated from the plasma, so while it would stop the penetration, the wearer is essentially trapped in what becomes their own personal microwave oven, and, not a good idea.
It cooked him like a pig at a luau.
Yeah, having the modern military go up against plasma weapons is kind of crazy. The mandate of Stargate Command is to find new technologies to better defend the planet, so making some kind of advanced armor for its troops makes sense. Heck, later in that very scene, Dr. Lee shows they've been working on a new ceramic polymer that will stop the blast and be resistant to the heat.
Away from the face, big guy. It's all good. I'm fine.
So yeah, kind of early to give this away, but yes, Stargate should invest in some kind of armor. In fact, as we saw, they were. So that's it then, right? Well, not quite yet. See, there's a few things to consider and think about. When I made that post, I saw a few say that the armor does make sense for something Latari would develop. And I can kind of see it. Unleashed has some time travel stuff going on, and if it was far enough in the future, I could see Earth developing something like this. Heck, say what you want about Stargate Infinity, but it takes place 30 years in the future from when the gate was first discovered, and they had armor, which if you crunch the numbers means it takes place in 2024. I really like the armor in Infinity. In fact, I based this character off the look of said armor. Yes, it's set in its own continuity, but still it makes sense for them to develop more advanced armor that far into the future. However, there are two things to consider for armor in the main timeline. First is possibly Stargate's greatest enemy, the budget. And I mean that from both an in-universe and out-of-universe perspective. Out-of-universe, Stargate already had to spend money on designing costumes for the aliens. It makes sense they would stick with basic military uniforms that would be easier and cheaper to recreate. In-universe, we know the Stargate program is very expensive.
Seven-ish,
$7,407,000,000,
give or take.
per year.
One of the reasons the Russians accepted a junior position to the Americans was the cost.
Research and development of the hyperdrive alone has cost them over $2 billion. And it still doesn't function properly.
This is a point I saw some people bring up in those various posts. Developing advanced technologies like better armor or even shields would cost money. And I can see in universe some politician or bean counter deciding not to invest in something like that for common soldiers.
Optics, totally fried. And let's not even talk about the power supply. You know how expensive this gear is, son?
Tell that to the...
Okay.
Now yes, as time would go on, the technology would become more widely used, and Earth does have access to some advanced tech. But keep in mind, time is still a factor. And just because Earth has knowledge or access to some advanced tech, doesn't mean they can just use it. A good example that comes to mind was the Tolan ion cannon. Earth was given the blueprints, but found they couldn't replicate it and would need to import ion cannons if they wanted some. Or an even better example in the final episode when the Odyssey was given the Asgard core. When they got stuck in the time bubble, it took Sam decades to come up with a solution, and she quite literally had all the time in the world. My point is, things like this just take time. The second thing to consider is the look. Stargate, even during the OG movie, had a certain look. Modern military fighting ancient aliens, and later just other aliens. If Stargate suddenly went full sci-fi, then it would be a little jarring. For me, there would need to be a balance between 3 key points. It would need to look like some kind of modern military, but also look somewhat advanced as Earth would advance with the alien tech it's gathered over the years. And the third point to balance with these two is originality. The problem with the Unleashed armor was that for many, it looks just a bit too much like other franchises. While we may not agree on what it looks like, we all agree it looks a bit too much like something else. So designing any armor would need to look unique to Stargate while combining the military with some advanced tech. And what's interesting is we do have examples of advanced Stargate armor coming from Stargate Worlds. In case you've never heard of Worlds, it was supposed to be an MMORPG for Stargate. It sadly was cancelled before it was finished, but there's still some leftover things to look at. In this case, armor designs for the player characters. On the World's YouTube channel, they did some interviews about the game, one of these topics being about armor. And it sounds like they did some homework on the subject.
Where did some of the inspiration come from these armor sets?
Well, when we were back designing the first levels of the systems of the game, we would watch, one of the first things you do here is you watch every episode of SG-1 to see exactly where the story is, make sure you're on par with it, and know what's going on. Then from there, we kind of extrapolated, well, where's all the damage types coming from? We kind of break it down to a systems level. Plasma blasts, we have radiation damage, electrical damage from Zats, we've got all these. So we just listed out all these different damage types. And then from that just led directly into us saying, what would the human military build in order to protect themselves versus staff weapons? So we said, they'd use a blade of armor type. So we started designing that stuff from there. And that's really where the overall concept came together to build all these armors together.
Now, I won't say everything they were cooking in Worlds would have been good. A lot of the concept art looks really cool, but I recently managed to get the editor for the game working and was poking around, and some of the armors do look a bit generic sci-fi. Though this is from the beta version, I'm sure if the game was released, they probably would have updated it over time to fit more in line with Stargate's look. However, there is a game that I think did take some of the best ideas from Worlds and turn it into something great. Stargate Resistance. Long story short, when Worlds collapsed, a group of developers reused assets to make Resistance. I have a whole video on that drama, but unlike Worlds, Resistance files are pretty easy to work with, and as such I can show you some of the models. And they look good. You have the basic ones that are more in line with what we see from the show, but other more advanced ones, like the commando skins or the riot gear for the soldier. And yeah, some of these I don't think fit too well into Stargate, but others I can see working just fine. I think my favorite is the technical ABU skin for the medic. To me, this is the perfect armor design for Stargate. It looks like something that could be worn by modern military with slight advances from the alien tech, such as the ablative armor on the shoulders, legs, and chest, and even gadgets such as the screen on her wrist or her backpack. Yet she still has certain more low-tech stuff, such as plenty of pockets like those seen on the standard SGC vest. And most importantly, I think this design makes her look unique. Sure, there are certain design elements that are similar to other sci-fi works, but I don't look at this armor and think, oh, this is just Halo. Granted, I'm more familiar with these games and models than others, so I may just be biased, but I stand by my opinion. And something else that came to mind is I don't think it'd be too crazy to take this design and replicate it for live action actors. Also, for the other medic skin, the FAU tactical armor, not as big a fan. It just looks like some snowsuit with a bubble head and a big iPad on the arm. Not bad, but also not very good in my mind. But what do you think? Do you think Stargate should include more advanced armor designs? And if you don't like these armors from Worlds and Resistance, what kind of armor do you think Stargate should have? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below, leave a like and subscribe, follow me on my social medias, and remember...
We're lucky that staff blast hit you where it did. That new vest insert works well.
Didn't help Fraser much.